Hello, everyone, and welcome to Book My Therapy. Today, we have the pleasure of introducing Natacha Pennycooke, an award winning psychotherapist, international speaker, and clinical consultant based in Toronto, Canada. She's dedicated to transforming mental health and psychotherapy on a global scale. Her practice focuses on helping high achieving individuals struggling with fear, worry, and self doubt stemming from trauma, anxiety, depression, guiding them towards healing and thriving. As a consultant, Natasha specializes in facilitating wellness workshops to create awareness and build mental health strategies for long term change. She emphasizes the importance of creating an anti racist environment, fostering inclusion and belonging to support equitable and sustainable workplace practices. Her work is guided in anti-oppressive, anti-black racism, and anti-colonial lens, ensuring that her approach is culturally sensitive and trauma-informed. Her dedication to mental health advocacy and her commitment to decolonizing psychotherapy make her a transformative figure in the field. We are honored to have you, Natasha, and welcome to Book My Therapy.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here to have a conversation with you and to meet all your listeners. Thank you.
The pleasure is all ours. Thank you for taking the time.
Of course.
So, I have a few questions for you. In your book, Your Highest Self, you discuss the power of self-talk.
Yes.
How can individuals identify and transform negative self-talk patterns to enhance their mental well-being?
Yeah, so this is a great question. So in one of my latest books, Your Highest Self, I have it here, I collaborated with 19 other health professionals, and we go through all of the different things to really get you to your highest self. So in my chapter, I do talk about self-talk. And I think, you know what, we as a people, as a community, we go through a lot of negative self-talk. The things that we say to ourselves are not healthy. A lot of times we would never say some of the things that we say to ourselves to other people. We would be more positive and uplifting. So absolutely, when we think about self-talk and negative self-talk, and we want to change those patterns, our first one is to really think about and look at what we're saying to ourselves. Would we ever say that to our child, for example? Right? And if we start recognizing that, no, I would not speak to my child that way, my best friend that way, a spouse, a loved one, then why speak to yourself that way? So the first thing is really identifying how am I speaking with myself? And then really going into, okay, I want to talk to myself different. So acknowledging that you want to do something different and you want to speak with yourself differently, right? That's going to be a really, really important place to start, because we need to recognize that the ways in which we speak with ourselves, then we hold on to it and then we behave that way.
That's so insightful. You're right, actually. That's the difference that we never look into, right? Because if I am sharing a personal experience in one day, if I just analyze how I talk to myself
Yes.
versus how I would talk to my friend, oh my God, it would be so opposite. So
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So think about that, right? If you're recognizing and you're counting all the things that you say to yourself throughout your day, and then like, okay, would I speak with my friend this way throughout the day? Someone that I care about throughout the day. And if you're saying, no, I would absolutely not speak to a friend that way, then you have to really ask yourself, then why do I speak to myself this
Mm.
way? Right?
Interesting.
That's your first step there. Yeah.
Thank you. So, the second question is about your work, which emphasizes on decolonizing psychology. What steps can mental health professionals take to integrate anti-oppressive, anti-black racism frameworks into their practice?
Yeah, so like myself, I was educated in Canada for the most of my degrees, and then I did my master's degree in the Caribbean, but it's always been from a Western lens. So what I started to recognize is that the lens in which that was being emphasized in the work that I do doesn't quite land with the people that I want to work with. It actually doesn't really land with myself. There were times, especially in my undergrad work, where we were being taught about cultural psychology and how to work with people of different ethnicities. But when I looked around my classroom, I was the only other in the class. I was the only racialized person in the class, including the professor. So what I recognize is that I being taught in my psychology class how to be a psychologist, a psychotherapist, but I'm also learning how to work with other, and I'm the only other here. So what I really recognize is that there has to be a need to decolonize psychology because psychology not did not only start from a Western perspective. There are psychologies in different parts of the world from an indigenous perspective, an African perspective, Southeast Asian perspective, that we really have to start looking at whom are we working with and what lens are we working with them from. So really, when I talk about integrating anti-oppressive, anti-Black racism lens framework, it's starting to recognize that the person that I'm working with, they have lived experiences that are part and parcel of who they are and how they navigate the world. So, for example, if I'm working with you, if I don't speak about your heritage culture, you being an individual from India and you have family in India and your experiences, then I'm missing a vital part of who you are, right? And then when we're working with people, we cannot miss a vital part of who they are. When someone comes as a psychotherapist, when someone comes to me for support, if I tell them, okay, you can come, but this piece of you and this piece of you has to stay at the door, then I'm missing the point. So, really, when we talk about decolonizing psychology, it's really looking at who is this person? What are the various oppressions that they may have gone through? What if their lived experiences? And their lived experiences is based on how they navigate the world. So these are really important frameworks to integrate into the work that we're doing with whomever we are working with.
Wow, well said. I couldn't agree more. I mean, there are so many different things that you cannot just name, but you feel it while you are in
Yes,
sessions, right? So, thank
yes,
you.
exactly, exactly. You're welcome.
So, the next question is about racial microaggression in the workplace. What strategies can organizations implement to create safer and more inclusive environments for marginalized employees?
Yeah, so this is a great question as well. So I've gone in and spoken at a number of workplaces, and especially workplaces that have a number of racialized individuals, is starting to recognize that the things that may have been categorized as jokes or things that were not harmful from the lens from the lens of the person, the perpetrator, the person who's saying those jokes, they may not be harmful to that person. They may be seen as micro, but the impact that they have on the other person, the person that it is against, it has a macro impact, right? Micro is small, insignificant, but micro is big, huge. It has a big impact. If you're in the workplace and someone makes racist jokes about whatever tied to who you are and to your heritage culture, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt and that's going to sting. And that is going to be something that you carry with you, not only at the workplace, but when you go home in the evening. And then it's going to cause discomfort and nervousness and worry to go back into the workplace the next day and the next days to follow. So we have to understand that when we are working with people, especially in a workplace, there has to be this policy that's there that we don't stand for these micro macro aggressions within the workplace. We want the workplace to be safe. Psychological safety, emotional safety in the workplace is really big to building an inclusive environment. How can you have an environment where employees feel safe, where they can feel trust, where they feel comfortable to go if there's worry and fear about jokes or things that could be labeled as harassment or bullying within a workplace? Workplaces have to look at their policies, look at the workplace culture to make sure it's inclusive for everyone that is operating there. Because at the end of the day, organizations want their employees to do well, to be effective, efficient, so that they could have a profit. If your employees are feeling not safe, that they can't trust, and they don't feel like they belong, no one's going to do their best work, which is going to impact profitability.
So true, so true.
Yeah,
I fully agree with this.
yeah, yeah,
The next question is about personal growth. So, in your chapter in the book, Your Highest Self, you explore using one's voice for personal growth. Can you share practical exercises to help individuals harness their voice and embrace authenticity?
yeah. So, one of the things that I love about my chapter is that I shared a little bit of my own personal story. For anyone who's interested out there, you can go to my website and you can purchase the book. I would love to sign a copy for you. So, when we think about our voice, and giving those practical exercises and examples. One of the things that I talk about in the book that I also do with my clients is that using the mirror. So we call it mirror work. So standing in the mirror and speaking with yourself or to yourself in a way that is kind, in a way that is caring. Like we spoke about earlier, if you are mean and awful, unkind to yourself, you feel that, and you would never speak that way to a loved one. So why speak to yourself that way? So we use the mirror as a way, as a practical exercise to be able to get people to really look at how they're speaking with themselves. So a lot of things that I love to do with mirror work are positive affirmations. So things like, I am enough, I am worthy, I am smart, I have meaning, things that happen to me are for my good. So being able to say those things within the mirror and, slowly making eye contact with yourself in the mirror, it's very hard, very challenging. Some people look away as they're standing in the mirror. But as you get more comfortable, it's about using your voice to be able to pull out your greatness and to help yourself grow. It's such a big tool. It's such a powerful tool. I've had clients that tell me they absolutely hate this exercise, but in the end, it has been so transformational.
Wow, I am almost excited to try that once I go
Yes.
back home today, and I will keep you posted how it goes.
Please do.
So, thank
Please
you.
do.
So, as a psychotherapist and speaker, you have addressed the importance of community in healing. How can individuals cultivate supportive communities to aid in their mental health journey?
Yes, community is so important, right? When we think about us as people, we are community people. We are social beings. We need one another to be well. So when we are able to cultivate and create and forge community, we really have to make sure that we're building community based on not only to who we are, but also our likes, our interests, things that we identify with. When we build community, we're able to feel a part of, feel as if we belong. There's so many places in the world that we live in where we may feel that we don't belong, that we're not a part of. Feeling like you're in a community and having community and forging a community that you feel that there's belonging, that there's safety, that there's trust. These are so important. And how that connects to your mental health journey, trust is a huge piece. If you feel you can trust, then you can put the guard down. You don't have to always be hiding who you are. You can live authentically, like you asked before, right? When you build community that you have trust and safety and you feel a part of, that you can belong, then you could be authentically you. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to hide behind a mask, which means that you can show up as you are. You're not left thinking, oh my gosh, am I enough? Am I okay? Will they accept me? Am I going to be judged negatively? You can just step into that community and be a part of, which means that it's not only better for your mental health, it's better for your overall health. So that's why building community is important. And that's how it connects to your mental health.
Well said.
Yeah.
So, This is about like finding the community and finding the right fit, right?
Yes.
So I was in therapy,
Yes.
and my therapist told me that, well, the context here is that I had asked her a question about what kind of society are we living in, where we favor negativity, narcissism, and reward people who, do all of these things, whereas good people always take a backseat. They're silent, and it's almost not good to be nice.
Mm.
So, what kind of community or society are we living in? And she told me, and this is where I, intend to ask from you, uh, that, uh, bad people are everywhere, and good people, they will not be everywhere. They are not going to, reach out to you asking about your life, what's up in your life, and, etc. They know what to do with their lives. They are content with their lives and they work on themselves. They're quiet. So, I mean, at that moment, it was a lightning moment for me. So, and obviously, like I am asking also from a personal perspective as to where do we find good people and good communities.
Yes, that's a great question. Where do we find good people? Where do we find communities? Honestly, nowadays, it can be easy as well as hard. And I say it that way because everyone has access to online, right? Everyone has access, or mostly everyone has access to online. So the pieces on building community, then it's like, okay, can you go online? A lot of people have joined Facebook groups. People have WhatsApp groups, WhatsApp chat groups. There's also different meetups where you can go and meet up with people. There's also going to the gym or to the library. So I think the most important thing is harnessing and understanding what are your interests, right? So if, for example, one of your interests is reading good books, then maybe it's starting to find a book club that enjoys reading the types of books that you like to. Maybe you like fiction, nonfiction. Maybe you like um, business. Maybe you like fantasy. So then it's like, okay, if you like business, then finding a book club that enjoys reading about business growth, right? So it's really important. Community is important, but it's also important to know that you are connecting yourself with the right community. And it's like anything. You said you've gone to therapy. It's about finding the right therapist to support you. All of this, especially with building community, it's about finding the right supports. So before you can go and find the right supports, figure out what do you need support with? What do you need support in? Do you need support for your mental health, for your physical health? Do you want to join a gym, but you're not too sure? Maybe you like doing cardio, maybe you like doing yoga. So maybe you join a yoga studio, or maybe you join a running club, right? But it's figuring out what is it that I like and what do I need support with. I don't think we as a community, as a people, we talk about support needs enough. A lot of people struggle when we're asked what supports do you have and what needs do they need to be met, right? What are your support needs? We're not really good, and I know myself included, I've struggled at times when people are like, how can I help you? What do you need? What do you want? It's like, oh my gosh, someone's asking me, what do I want? How do I answer that? Because we don't spend enough time figuring out what is it that I want? What is it do I need to be well? I want everyone, every one of us to get better at doing that.
Wow. Some self reflection and some
Yes.
work to do.
Yes, we all have that work to do. And it's 2025. Why not do the work?
Well said. Yeah. If not now, then when? Very nice.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, coming back to the question, so this is about like toxic workplaces. You have
Yes.
participated in discussions about navigating toxic workplaces. So, what advice would you have for individuals experiencing microaggression and seeking to maintain their mental health in such environments?
Yeah, so we'll piggyback off where we left off last time, right? How microaggressions can have a macro impact on people. If you're recognizing, if you're in a workplace where there's multiple micro macro aggressions that are taking place, first of all, figure out, is there a safe person that I can speak to about this? Sometimes that may be a manager, sometimes that may be a boss, a supervisor, maybe you have an HR department. Start seeing if that is safe. And the reason why I say, is it safe? Is because unfortunately, it's not all managers or supervisors who will be kind and receptive to the feedback. And also, it may be not all HR departments may be also receptive to that feedback. So, first and foremost is checking if it's safe. And again, I say that because, making a complaint can have repercussions on your livelihood, right? Your job, your finances, on your livelihood. So, you want to make sure, okay, is it safe to have this conversation with someone here in the workplace? I would say also document, document, document. If something happened, write yourself an email that today at this time I was speaking with this person, this is what was said, and this was the impact on me, and now I'm uncomfortable within the workplace. Document it, because sometimes it may come back another time where you're ready to say something to HR, but you don't have it documented. Document it. It's really important. Also, if you're starting to recognize that it's starting to have big mental health impact on you, i.e., it's impacting your ability to function within the workplace, that's when I would say, speak with your family doctor if you have one. And also, you can speak with a mental health professional, right? A mental health professional can help you get tools and tips on how to navigate not only the workplace, but how to take care of the stress that you have internalized, but also with your family doctor or primary care team. They can also start documenting the impact on your physical health and your mental health. So that way, if you do decide to escalate some of the things that's happening in the workplace, you have a medical professional that has documented, right? I know a lot of times it seems like it's hard to go about these routes where you're going to pull in maybe your primary care, your doctor, your nurse practitioner. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you're doing what you can to support yourself as you're navigating, right? Because it's so many times we've had clients that I personally work with and clients within our clinic that people are coming in because of harassment, oppression, toxic workplace cultures. And it's having a really big impact on their mental health, which means that they're not able to work, they're not able to function, they're having to take time off, which is impacting their family life, the finances. So, I would definitely say that if there's something happening in a workplace, first figure out, is there someone that you can go to within the workplace having a conversation, document, speak with your primary care team, your mental health team, so that they can document it too, so you can start putting things in place to take care of yourself. Because all of this is making sure that you can take care of yourself so that you can function well.
Yeah, wow, I really like how detailed approach you have, and it's
Yeah.
really, I hope that um, is helpful for someone who is experiencing any of that right now. So,
Yeah,
yeah, really, that's really smart. So, thank you.
you're welcome.
So, the next question is about trauma-informed care. So, how does
Mhm.
your approach in helping clients process and heal from racial trauma integrate into your practice?
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? Because a lot of us practitioners have been told about trauma-informed care and things like that. I believe in trauma-informed care, but I think we all have to go a little bit deeper. It's not only about being aware that trauma exists, but it's recognizing that every single person has experienced some trauma in some form or another, right? If we sit here and think, no, 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 that's not trauma, then we're missing out. All of us have experiences, whether it's from a racialized lens, a cultural lens, maybe it's even with a car accident or secondary trauma where you heard about someone going through something and that had an impact on you. Every single one of us has been impacted by trauma because trauma is really about our ability to cope, right? A paper cut could be a trauma to some person, and a car accident could be a trauma to another. It's really about our ability to cope. So when I think about like integrating trauma informed practices, it's not only the integration, it's seeing it from that lens, it's being able to work from it from that lens with the understanding that it is there. So I think that first and foremost is from the framework. Um, that myself and our team work from. It's recognizing that trauma is there. And then when we talk about racialized trauma, it's really going into what are the stressors that this individual has had to deal with because of someone else's perception of their race. Sometimes what happens in the world that we live in, we think that the racial trauma is the fault of the racialized person, but it's not. It's the perpetrator's issue that their lens is that way. So, for example, if I were to go into a bank and I need a loan, but the person there sees me as a Black woman, it's like, no, I don't want to give a Black woman a loan. That's an impact of someone's racialized lens towards me without recognizing that, I'm a business owner and these are the things that's going to help augment my business. But there are sometimes when that has happened to a lot of different individuals. So right there and then, that's a trauma where, having to navigate that, like this person will not give me a loan because they see me as a Black person and they have their own racial biases. So it's recognizing now, what is that impact on myself? What is that impact on our clients who might have experienced that? What does that say about them? Have they internalized that something is wrong with them, that they can't get this loan? How do they now navigate their business? Because the loan was to do something good in their business, right? So it's recognizing that these instances, whether it's a race or racism or other kinds of trauma, these are embedded in our systems, right? There's not so much they're embedded in that person, they're embedded in our systems. And because we are all part and parcel of our systems, we are impacted, period.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a deeply impactful thing to consider. So that's why, like, I took a minute to, bounce back because, yeah,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
what you're saying is 100% right. Um, so in your podcast appearances, you have discussed the significance of self-advocacy. What are some initial steps individuals can take to advocate for their mental health needs effectively?
Yeah, self-advocacy is so important. I don't think we talk about it enough. We know that there are social advocates and things like that, but how do we advocate for self? What does that mean? It's about really understanding, some of the things that I've already alluded to. What supports do I need to be well? And we want to take it a step further. We don't only want to be well, we want to thrive. We want to like really do well. We want to thrive, right? So it's what supports do I need to make sure that my wellness is the top of my mind. So then thinking about that as we're talking about the workplace, right? If something is happening from a micro macro aggression in the workplace, it's how do I advocate for myself so that I can still come into the workplace and do well and thrive and do my job and collect my pay so that I could take it back to my family. So it really is a significant thing. So some of the steps is again, what supports do I need? What's happening and what supports do I need to navigate this? And those supports may mean I need to go to therapy. I need a family doctor. I need community. I need other people who understand this piece of me, right? So really that self-advocacy is all about understanding what is it that I need to be well. That's really what it is. And then once we go from there, then it's deepening on that. Okay, so I need maybe I'm spending so much time at work, but I don't have a personal life. I enjoy reading, so maybe I'm going to join a reading club so that I can be well on my friendship circle. Maybe I want to get physically healthy, but I don't go to a gym. Okay, in order for me to thrive on my physical health, maybe I want to go to gym. Okay, you know what? It's cold. I like walking and running, not inside, but outside. It's too cold outside, but maybe my second thing, I like yoga. So maybe in summertime, I'll join an outdoor running club, but to maintain my wellness in the winter, I'm going to do yoga, right? So it's really getting people to be granular about what is it that I need to be well. That's the first step.
And so even I understand where you come from, and when it comes to, fully understand what you mean, in my opinion, is understand yourself. Right. So
Mhm.
at times, I ask this because I also work in the field of mental health. And when I'm talking to a lot of different people, what I hear is that um, they have a massive confusion between what is self-love and being selfish. So
Yes.
the the detailed approach that you just mentioned, and I'm asking for them. I mean, I'm not posing this question as if it's from me and
Mhm.
asking it
Yeah.
as from my friend,
Yes.
but really, what is the difference between self-love and
And
selfish?
selfish. Yeah, that's a great question. So we live in a world that sees selfish as bad, right? Selfish is considered a bad thing. And I think it gets a bad rep because it's this idea that if I am quote unquote selfish, I'm not putting other people's needs above my own, right? A lot of times it's that. But what I would like to reframe for people, let's stop saying selfish and stop saying self-full, right? What are the things that I need to do to make sure that myself is at full capacity? Self-full, right? There is a difference between selfish and self-full. Selfish is really like, I don't care about anybody. I'm just doing the things for myself. But self-full, it's more about if I am well, then I can be there for other people.
Wow.
As simple as that. If I am well, I can be there for other people. Both you and I, we work in a therapy space. And we know if our mental health is not well, there's no way we can be there for other people. So we really have to make sure if I am well, I can be there for more people. If I am not well, it's going to be really hard for me to show up because I don't have anything to give. Yeah.
Wow. I really like the choice of words and the reframing. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
So the next question is about positive affirmations and building resilience. Can you provide some
Yes.
examples of affirmations that promote self-worth and empowerment?
Oh, yes. I love affirmations. I think positive affirmations, um, they need to be used more because the way they help to build resiliency, they start to change our thinking pattern. If we get to a place of, again, the negative self talk, right? If we get to a place where we're saying all these negative things about ourselves or to ourselves, that's where our brain is going to go, our mind is going to go. But if we get in the mindset of, saying positive things, then we're going to come from a positive lens. And that builds so much resiliency because when things go wrong, we're not just going to pull from the negative box. We're going to have this positive box to pull from. And then we're going to recover faster and try something else. Right. So, really, some of my favorite ones, I actually have some here. Um, some of my favorite ones are I am enough. I matter. I am worthy. That is a huge one for a lot of people. Um, things happen for my gain. That's a big one that I've been using lately. Um, other ones can be, especially around maybe finances, is, oh, what is it? Money comes to me easily. Money flows to me easily. That's it. Right. That's another good one. Um, Yeah. So, really start thinking there could be negative things that you say. Think about how you could change that into a positive, right? I know earlier you were saying how, like, people are saying all these negative things and they connect to a person, then we internalize them. But really start thinking, like, okay, those negatives, they're actually not helping me, they're hindering me. So, really, if we want to go from the mindset of everything happens for my gain, then let's really start putting things out there that are going to be for my gain, not for my hindrance.
Well said, because
Mhm.
what you focus on grows, right? That's a quote
Yes.
that I read somewhere,
Yes.
and it's easy for the mind to focus on the negative only. So why not train it to see positive? So well said.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
The next one is my favorite.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome, right?
Mm.
Your work involves supporting so the question is your work involves supporting high achieving individuals, dealing with anxiety and self-doubt. What common challenges do they face, and how do you assist them in overcoming obstacles?
Yeah. So you already mentioned imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is this idea that a feeling like a fraud, feeling like you don't belong. But when I talk about imposter syndrome, you know how I spoke about systems, right? There are different systems in the world that we live in. This is part and parcel of our world. A lot of times in those systems, we don't see in the upper echelons of leadership in those systems, we don't see a lot of women. We don't see a lot of racialized women with brown skin in those spaces. So, of course, when we're trying to navigate those spaces, especially for my high achieving individuals, we're not seeing ourselves represented. So we really have to, like one of the ways that I really support individuals, especially struggling with imposter syndrome, is to build community. Let me build community of other high achieving individuals who has similarities to me. So maybe a group of racialized women who are high achievers. Then I'm in the space where I'm like, oh, I don't feel like a fraud anymore. I don't feel like an imposter. Look, everyone here resonates a piece of my identity. So we have to be really careful about the things that we tell ourselves we are. And that's why I love working on imposter syndrome. Because once I help people to break it down, they really see, like, oh, I'm not the issue. I'm not a fraud. These places that I am a high achiever that I want to go, those systems, they have not caught up yet. So let me start building community of people who get me, who see me, other high achievers, and how are now we working together to dismantle these systems, right? So that's one of the ways that I really enjoy working with our high achievers, because the anxiety is going to be there. There's a lot of anxiety of being a perfectionist, of doing well, but I really believe that, working individually on a self-doubt, but also working from a community lens on it, so that now we have people that we could turn to. I have people like, oh my gosh, I'm having this self-doubt. Oh, I can turn to Nihai, like, we can have a conversation because you're also a business owner running a practice, right? So the more that we can connect in community, the more that we could decrease our feelings like of a fraud and our self-doubt, because we now see ourselves represented.
Wow, how insightful is that? Because somewhere when you say about systems and processes, like they were
Yes.
built before like we existed and they were
Yes.
accepted widely by different societies. The next question is about yourself being
Mm-hmm.
featured in various different media outlets discussing mental health. So how do you
Yeah.
tailor your message to resonate with diverse audiences across different platforms?
Yeah. I think for myself, I have things that I speak about, things that resonate for me, things that are a part of um, really a part of my brand, right? Like the things we've been talking about today, building community, um, positive affirmations, self-talk, anti-oppressive work, anti-Black racism. So when I am featured in the media across various platforms, I really stay true to who I am and to what I speak about, because as you just said, being very relatable, right? Being very relatable to my audience, to the people that I'm working with, so that I'm also authentic, that this is who I am, this is what I speak about. It may be, it may be not everyone's cup of tea, but this is who I am. This is what I speak about. My audience will find me. My audience will say, yes, Natacha speaks about anti-Black racism. Natacha speaks about systems. Natacha speaks about high achieving individuals, about representation, imposter syndrome, self doubt. And those are the things that I want to speak about as well. Those are the things that resonates to me. Those are the things that I need help with. And now I know that I can go to Natasha for that support. So, when I'm across different medias, I really stay true to myself and knowing that the audiences that I am speaking with, that whether it is that they're looking for mental health or whether it is they're looking for more specific anti-Black racism, it's being able to say, you know what, these are the areas that I speak on. If you want me to speak on mental health, absolutely. This is my lens on mental health.
That is so interesting, and inspiring. Authenticity is the word of the year.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yes. And sometimes it's hard to be yourself, especially in the world we live in where everything's on social media and people are
Yeah,
doing things. But I think it's just centering on what your goals are. What is it that you want? And of course, your goals are going to change,
yeah,
right? We grow and our goals change, but still staying grounded to the who you are. So important.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the last question about your
Yes.
practice, which offers clinical consulting to other mental health professionals. What
Yes.
are the key components of effective anti-racist training for clinicians?
Yeah, this is a great question. So, interesting enough, I have an offer that I'm working on coming out maybe March, maybe February, March, um, for clinicians. So, I would say some of the key components is really, as clinicians, we have to know that people need help, right? People need help. And as I spoke about earlier, especially about trauma, recognizing that in the help people need, there's going to be things that they've experienced trauma, various systems, all of those things not being represented for some part of their identity. So, really, it's recognizing that these are going to be some of the really core components. As a clinician, I would say if you're not well trained in trauma, get yourself some trauma training. Okay. And hint, that's what my offer is going to be coming up. It's trauma training, but really looking at trauma from various lenses, from anti-oppressive lens and anti-racist lenses, from systems, from representation. So really these key components, absolute trauma, healing, looking at systems and the impact that it has on people, but also what does healing mean to one person? Right? We are all part of various systems, whether it's family or generations or community. What does healing look like? And I think that from a Western psychology lens, we've been told that healing is specifically this one thing. I think we need to break and again decolonize that narrative that, you know, ourselves as the clinicians, we are there to guide someone in their healing. We're not there to tell them this is your healing. We're here to understand what your healing is. Your healing may be very much grounded in your culture and your foods and cultural practices and family. So then, for myself as a clinician, working from a decolonized lens, it's taking everything from your culture and your family and your food and your practices and introducing that back to you as part of your own healing. I think that's what clinicians need to know.
Wow. I wish this podcast doesn't come to end because every time you speak, I'm like, please keep talking. It's almost a mesmerizing feeling.
Oh, thank
So thank you.
you. Thank you.
I know I said that is going to be a last question, but I have a follow-up question as
Yeah,
well.
of course.
How can, now this is like typically geared for mental health professionals. So like yourself. So what can mental health professionals do, or what advice would you give to someone who is pursuing a degree in psychology um, or psychotherapy? Uh, Some of the best practices, to be true to themselves or be able to, like you said, understand your needs and be able to give back and whatnot. So, what are some practices that you would advise?
Yeah. If you are studying psychology, psychotherapy, social work, and your goal is to become a clinician, a psychotherapist, I strongly advise that you go to your own therapy. Strongly, strongly, strongly advise that you have your own therapy as well. And the reason why this is important, you need to understand what it is like for your clients, for our clients, to be on the other side of the camera, other side of the chair, of the desk. You have to understand what it's like to sit there and to be vulnerable and to trust someone with your very personal, intimate stuff. Also, you need to know how not to become triggered by the things that your clients are going to tell you. I can tell you in my career, in my 14 years, almost 15 years in my career, the things that I have heard from clients, you're going to hear the most outrageous things from your clients. And you have to know that you are well enough not to internalize or not to turn your session that you're leading into your own therapy session. You need to have your own help. You need to have your own space to be reflective. You have to do your own healing because the reality is, most of us as psychotherapists, psychologists, social workers, psychotherapists, we enter this field because we have our own hurt and our own healing to do, right? A lot of times that's the case. So you don't want to bring your own hurt, your own traumas into your therapy room. You want to have your own therapist to unpack that with, your own therapist to make sense of this with. You want to make sure that you have your own therapy. That is my biggest suggestion.
Thank you. Well received. Yeah, because I
Yes.
always have that question because what happens on other end, like the
Mhm.
person, because that's a fully functional human being. So yeah.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So comes to therapy, not therapy, I must say, emotions. Okay, men and women are viewed differently traditionally by the society. Women are good with emotions, and men are more logical thinkers, not good with emotions. Um, But after being in therapy and also being in this field, I've realized that's not necessarily true. So, and I ask this also because of the question that I have, and also because based upon my interactions with a lot of different people. Um, the therapy systems that have been designed, and not necessarily because of the Western concept or culture of psychotherapy, are they in favor of men's mental health?
Yeah. Oh, great question. Interesting enough, 2024, our most asked question in our practice, one of our most asked questions was, do we have a male therapist? And at the time we didn't, but now we do because we heard what people were asking, what they wanted. And I think this is a very interesting question because it shows that people want a male therapist. Men want a male therapist. People want a male perspective on mental health. And I think that as our world and our society starts normalizing men's mental health, it's going to give men more permission to speak. I do believe there's a difference between men and women, female identified and male identified folks. However, in that difference, I think, again, the systems and society has told us that men are quote unquote supposed to be quiet, supposed to maybe show their anger and not show their emotions. Society has built this world where men have to struggle alone. And that's not fair. It's not fair. We know the statistics that individuals who attempt suicide, men are men would follow through with it. So men were more likely to die by suicide after an attempt. And the reason is there's not as much support out there for men's mental health. We have men who are walking around, looking like they're okay, smiling and everything, but inside, what's happening? They're crumbling. They're trying to uphold this very harmful narrative of masculinity
Yeah.
and being strong. So, we've been failing our men, and we have to do better. We have to make spaces for men to go out and seek therapy. We need to make spaces that it's okay to have a conversation, that men are allowed to cry, allowed to be vulnerable, allowed to be open and honest and intimate with their emotions. So we really need to do better. We need to we need to stop with the man up or be a man kind of narratives. And I say that not only men telling men, but women telling men, right? And that causes a lot of harm and a lot of friction. So I think, we have to look at the society, we have to look at the systems, we have to look at how the systems have failed men and women identified folks, right? And we have to make space. We have to make space for everyone to come. And I'm very proud to say that our practice, that we have a male therapist who works with teens and young adults and adults and families. And also our female therapists, a female identified therapists work with men. Actually, over the course of my early career, I had mostly men on my roster, right? So men are seeking out help. And I want them to know that you can come into our practice, whether you're looking for a female identified therapist or a male identified therapist, we have that for you.
Well said. And I
Yeah.
appreciate the transparency and honesty. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
So this brings to the end of the podcast. And
Yes.
I'm so thankful for you for making time for us.
Yes. Yes.
And thank you once again, Natasha.
Thank you. This has been a great conversation. And again, to anyone out there listening, whether you are a person who's searching for therapy, you can reach out to us, whether it is you're a clinician that is looking for support within your own therapy practice, please reach out. You can find all of our information at natashapennycooke.com. That's Natasha with a C, pennycooke.com, also on all social media platforms at Natasha Pennycooke.
Yes, and I will also add the links in the description on this YouTube video.
Perfect.
And yeah, so that people can reach out more quickly.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is such a great conversation, Neha.
Likewise, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.